Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We'll be getting started in just a few moments. Hello, everyone. We're just about at 2 o'clock and we'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. We've got some folks logging in right now as we speak, and then we'll get this kicked off. Thank you for your patience. And hello, everyone. We'll be getting started in 1 minute.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Welcome to Optimizing the Management of Engineering Information in Asset-Intensive and Process-Driven Industries with Frost & Sullivan, Dow Chemical, and Synergis Software. My name is Robert Cavan, Industry Analyst with Frost & Sullivan, and I'm excited about the content we've put together for you today. Many of you may know Frost & Sullivan. We're an independent 1,800-person research analysis and consulting firm covering a variety of industries. We're headquartered in California, and we have offices in over 40 countries. I'll be leading us through today's session, and first I want to let you know that you've been brought into the webinar in listen-only mode. At the end of today's presentation, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions to any of the presenters. Joining us today are Greg Schuler, Global Manager of Engineering Information with Dow Chemical, John Grobler, Business System Integration Specialist with Synergis Software, Scott Lamont, Synergis VP of Marketing, and myself, Robert Cavan, Industry Analyst with Frost & Sullivan. As a mechanical engineer for 10 years and an industry analyst for another 10 years, I'm in a unique position to facilitate a discussion about the challenges faced by companies in process-driven industries, including energy, chemicals, utilities, mining, and infrastructure, along with the EPCs they partner with. In today's discussion, Greg, Jean, Scott, and I hope to shed some light on how EIM software, implemented properly, can have massive benefits to operational excellence and project timelines, cost, and quality. The format for today's webinar is that I'll kick things off and share Frost & Sullivan's high-level take on the common challenges that EIM addresses, and provide some insight on key benchmarks to look for based on our extensive study of the engineering information management market. Next, Greg will share a high-level overview of Dow Chemical's journey with EIM, the key drivers, some of the results Dow has achieved, along with critical success factors. Following this, John will introduce us to Synergis' Adept Integrator and share how the integration of engineering information between enterprise business systems is helping companies like Con Edison, Alyeska Pipeline, and Barrick Gold bring order to the chaos of capital projects and support their efforts towards operational excellence. Finally, Scott will share a brief overview of Adept, Synergis' flagship engineering information management solution, and then all of us will be available to answer your questions. Okay, the need for managing engineering information. The digital transformation of capital projects is well underway. Information is scattered across servers and personal computers, plus equipment itself generates data to help with maintenance. Combined with device proliferation, regulatory requirements, and security concerns, forward-looking companies are looking to EIM to get everyone working together to find, manage, and share information and to meet compliance demands throughout project life cycles. The stats you're seeing above, the daily operation of an oil refinery, the millions of documents and gigabytes of process data and terabytes of inspection data, these are conservative from what we were told. And it's interesting that 95% of this data is never used, just collected. But this is to give you an idea of the volume of information that an EIM solution must deal with. How to deliver on time and under budget. So delivering on time and under budget can be difficult when transitioning asset data to owner-operators. This handover is essential to the efficient ramp-up and maintenance of complex oil and gas, utility, chemical, or mining facilities, as well as infrastructure projects. It's imperative that an EIM solution not only be focused on solving problems like this, but the provider have expert resources, years of field experience, and a global presence to help clients through potentially disruptive process of transitioning engineering asset information. So you can see the handover cost for a $1 billion facility can be up to $20 million, 1 to 2% of CapEx costs, and take a year to complete. Okay, and praise and maintenance. EIM is a nerve center, the information repository needed to build and maintain plants. It's essential to the maintenance process to have correct protocols set up to generate alerts for assets coming to the limits of wear. Process-driven companies need to be proactive about scheduling for downtimes rather than be reactive to unscheduled maintenance issues. EIM solutions can connect people to the information needed to minimize downtime while maintaining complex industrial processes rather than troubleshooting them after a shutdown. So downtime costs refineries, what we've seen, from $40 to $90 million annually, and 92% of that is unplanned due to inadequate maintenance. Now, keeping data safe and accessible. In reviewing the EIM market, we were told that almost 50% of an organization's value derives from its intellectual property. You know, the ease with which information can be transmitted makes access control and audit trails crucial to the protection of an organization's intellectual property. An ideal EIM solution helps protect against IP theft. Using an EIM solution to do ongoing monitoring helps spot suspicious activity for you to take action before valuable IP falls into the wrong hands. So the U.S. government estimates the cost of trade secret theft in the U.S. alone is $540 billion per year. And when I first read that stat, I assumed it was mostly through hacking. You can see $300 billion of that is through cybersecurity. But what was eye-opening was $240 billion of that was through employee theft, basically former and current employees walking away with valuable IP. Now, create a single source of truth. Knowledge workers spend from 15% to 35% of their time searching for information, and almost 10% of their time recreating quote-unquote new information they couldn't find. As you can see in the statistic on the page, the cost of what we like to call intellectual rework is $5,000 per worker per year. That adds up. So enabling a single source of truth for all relevant documentation and operational information is foundational to any organization to achieve excellence and realize its potential. Decision makers need the confidence that the information they're looking at to make their decisions is not only the latest information, but also accurate. Information and plans that took years to create for plants and projects costing millions to billions of dollars deserve to be maintained in an easy-to-use, organized system that connects people, information, processes, and business systems. So the EIM market drivers, this graphic is a high-level view of how Frost & Sullivan goes about sizing a market. We'll talk to the companies involved and generate sets of drivers and restraints to gauge the current size and how fast the market is growing. Rather than going through all the different bullet points there, the points on the page, the main takeaway is that the EIM market was at $366.5 million in 2018, and it's growing to $627 million by 2023. That's a compound annual growth rate of about 10%. Now, in process-driven industries like oil and gas, utilities, infrastructure, and mining, along with manufacturing, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, falling under the category of EPC projects, these are the largest customers of EIM solutions globally. So that's an overview of our perspective of engineering information management here at Frost & Sullivan. Next, we wanted you to hear directly from a customer who has implemented EIM and has been deploying it globally to gain their perspective, insights learned, and the value they are deriving from the solution. Let me introduce all of you to Greg Schuler, Global Manager of Engineering Information at Dow Chemical.
Good day, everyone. This is Greg Schuler with Dow Chemical. And let me talk a bit about myself. So I'm a chemical engineer by education, but I spent the first 15 years or so of my career working in chemical plants in various roles, being a generator and a consumer of engineering information. But I've spent the bulk of the remaining part of my career in the software side of the business, and I've been with Dow about 8 years. So today, I'll share what we consider really to be sort of an essential first step in our EIM journey. I'll talk a little bit about Dow, discuss our original problem that we were trying to solve and how we went about doing that, and how our success has greatly expanded the scope and value that we're able to deliver as part of this solution. I'll summarize some key learnings, talk about what it's worth so far, and touch on where we're headed next. So, as you are probably aware, Dow and DuPont recently merged and are splitting into 3 companies, and I'm part of what's called the new Dow. And a key point on this slide here is that we're both an owner-operator and an EPC. So we have a large global internal engineering group which really allows for some special opportunities for collaboration across these very different but complementary parts of our business. I'll talk more about this in a bit. So what was the original problem that we were trying to solve? From Dow's perspective, the first step in EIM was really to get what I call our house in order. In other words, to organize the bulk of our core engineering information. And for us, that information was contained in really millions of discrete engineering documents that we call as-built. When you build a facility, you issue a document package, it can be called various things. As designed is one example. But when the project is complete and you hand over a big package of documents to your site, we call that the as-built set of documents. That's what I mean by this comment here. And what we found was that this information was really being managed in 20 to 30 different applications worldwide. Many of these were custom apps. Some were in file shares. Some were actually still running on VAXs. But pretty much all of them were either unsupported or out of date. And the largest had significant gaps in what you see here: usability, security, reliability, and performance. And as you can imagine, these gaps could have quite a significant impact upon plant operations. People might lose a document. People might use the wrong version of a document. People could see things and they were not supposed to. And also, we're trying to really share much more information globally. So there was what I call a high level of friction for global collaboration in this kind of environment. So what were we going to do about that? Well, our solution was to develop and deploy a globally consistent commercial document management system, or DMS. And the objective was to improve searchability, security, availability, and a number of other things. But if you step back and say, we really wanted to provide an entirely new way to collaborate by providing this single global portal to access these as-built engineering documents. So this is what we started off to solve. Now, before you implement, you have to pick a vendor for your software. And being Dow, we went through a very systematic, actual Six Sigma project, a very facts-based assessment. We looked at our largest internal systems and extracted from that a set of 85 very specific functionality needs and ranked them, etc. We went out into the marketplace and we looked at 8 vendors, got that down to 4, and then had an in-house proof of concept between 2 vendors. And one of those was Synergis Adept. And it's probably no surprise, since I'm presenting here today, that we've ended up picking Adept. And what you see here is an extract from the slide that I presented back in 2011 to our steering team recommending the adoption of Adept. And for a variety of reasons that you can read here, we concluded that Adept was the lowest risk, best solution, very easy to use component for doing what we wanted to do. And so I'm happy to say from both sides is that in 2019, our assessment is still accurate. So now let's talk a bit about implementation. So one of the challenges that we have here is that Dow is a company of acquisition and merger. There's legacy Dow, there's sites from Union Carbide, Roman Haas, Dow Corning, recently DuPont. And surprisingly, each company has found a very different way to structure what is really the same basic information, or metadata. That's how you would search for a document, how you would define tag names, etc. There's a tremendous amount of difference. But remember, our objective was to provide a single portal that people would know how to use and could find things quickly, regardless of where they were or what information they were trying to find. So we realized that we really need to spend a lot of time up front thinking through how we were going to deploy this globally. And our solution was to develop a deployment template. We wanted to start at each site with this template that we had worked out beforehand and see if that could fit. And we believed we had come up with something that would work quite well. But at the same time, you don't want to go into a site and say, here it is, this is what you get. We don't want to do that. We wanted to spend the time, and I'm going to quote Covey, seek first to understand. Right? Why are they doing what they're doing? Can we solve their problem using standardized software? The bottom line is we didn't want to break what worked at those sites. Now, Dow is a large company, and we have many different sites to do. But I would suggest to you that going into a site and spending the time to understand how people work is essential. Regardless if you're huge or small, I think the concepts apply equally well to single site deployments. That to me is a real takeaway. Okay, here's what you could might call a typical as-built migration site project. And I should have put typical in quotes because as you can see, there's from tiny projects to very significant projects. And in fact, it is possible to do this in a very short amount of time if you have good metadata. We actually converted one site from start of project to go live in six working days. We had one weekend we did across. So it is possible to do this very quickly. It doesn't have to take months or years to do this if you've got the right software and the right team. So recall that we started off with as-built documents. That was our original mandate here. And in the past years, we now have about 40 manufacturing sites and thousands of users, and we're approaching 4 million documents across our various systems. Now, I'm happy to say that we actually have generally really happy and delighted customers. And this success has led to what I call a lot of organic pull growth, where people came to us and said, wow, I hear there's a lot of value in putting stuff into a document management system. Can you take a look at our documents and see what you can do for us? So to me, this is like a pull kind of growth. And so we've expanded this original mandate way beyond that scope. And today, Dow has a pretty strong PMO, Project Management Organization or Office. And all of those documents are now in Adept. The most effective technology documents that we use, the MET, is now in Adept. Many of our major projects, their primary deliverables are now being issued out of Adept. And we're even using the solution to extract project performance metrics, cost estimates, number of hour estimates, et cetera, directly from documents and pulling that out using Adept. So we've come a long way, and we're big into capital projects. So I have a couple slides now to just illustrate that in a little bit more detail, the rate of growth. So this slide shows cumulative document count since back in 2013, about when we did our first system, up until the end of 2018. And you can see we're approaching upwards of 3.5 million documents with revisions. But I'm able to show you this because we created an environment of our own, a reporting environment, to track the usage of our systems down to the site, down to the department. We want to understand how people use this type of solution so we can improve it. But also, we equate usage with value. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So here's another perspective. This slide shows the same time frame, shows check-ins, check-outs, and document views. And I want to highlight that document views. So we're exceeding now about 60,000 document views per month across our various systems. And that equates to about 3,000 views per workday, which from product manager perspective, this is a really good feeling that you see real-time feedback that what we're doing is making a material difference in how people work and making it a lot easier to find information. It's just pretty cool to have this. Now let's switch a bit and talk about, if we step back, what did we learn from doing this and what has worked really well and what would we recommend other people to follow? So you remember that deployment template that we worked on? That became essential, and it's pretty much continues to be used today. We've added a few things to it here and there, but it's really provided the basis for about everything that we do. When you go in to do a project like this, where you migrate their documents, the bulk of your time is typically going to be trying to understand what manner of strange things they have done with their metadata and make sure that you can migrate it from where it is into the appropriate fields in your new system. It is essential to seek first to understand the user needs, because a lot of times people will have, if you're used to Six Sigma terms, a hidden factory. Well, what they tell you how things work is not always how it really does. So you've got to invest the time for that. But there's a tenant that's exactly the opposite of that. You cannot go into a site and just implement whatever custom request that they have. You have to have a very high bar. Every one of our installations is done by configuration and can be upgraded at any time. There is no customization that we would have to redo when a new version of Adept comes out. And that's critical in my opinion. Now, what we found was that we could always deliver what people needed with out-of-the-box functionality, not always what they asked for, but what they needed. And in the end, you have happy customers. From a different angle, what we found was that we could pretty much do most all of this, except in a few cases remotely. And most of the places where we've migrated their documents, we never had to visit. I was a little surprised at that. I'm a kind of a hands-on face person, but we didn't have to spend the money to do that. All right, this is a strong recommendation. People will go into a system and search for names, say. And if you migrate the data exactly as is, you may run into this situation. So for example, people search for a site called Texas Operation. There's many different ways to spell or misspell Texas Operation. You don't clean this up before you put it in, people will not blame the bad metadata, they will blame the system that you implemented. You must invest the time to make sure you have quality in information. And finally, as I've mentioned, it's really critical to track user satisfaction and use metrics. I work for Amazon, who lives and dies by data. And I really try to extend those concepts into what we're doing here. It's really important. All right, so what's the value case? What's its worth here? So recall again that our first step was document management, get our house in order. And so what I'm going to show here is just for the document management part. And here's what we've observed so far. So you remember our objective was to provide this single portal of information. We expect about 4 million documents in our system by the end of this year. And because of our usage data, we can say about 2% of documents are viewed per month. And if you just assume a very conservative 2 minutes saved per view where people are finding a document, and there's a certain amount of opportunity cost of wasted time they could spend on more valuable activities, that's $10 million a year of benefit just from finding things more quickly. Now, here's a slide that it's got 2017 data, but this was our cumulative estimated value that we had back then, and you can see we believe we reached the target around 20 million cumulative value delivered. And this is just from document management. Okay, but there's a few more other categories of savings that I want to touch on. So here's a recent example where key documents were exposed to competitors and a lot of intellectual property was lost. But when you put your documents into a document management system, you can see exactly who did what, who viewed what, who copied out what documents, who printed what documents, etc. And so using that information, you cannot prevent people from stealing information, but you can track and alert on who looked at what. Say, for example, all of a sudden there was a spike in copy outs of documents. Maybe you ought to go take a look at that. Another area is in global collaborations, very close to my heart here, is that, you know, Dow has this large engineering team in both India and in Houston, and we're continually sharing documents. And so typically they've done this via WAN and SharePoint. And this is, if you've ever done this, it's painfully slow and unreliable in many cases. Well, with the implementation of Adept and its replication, we've really cut this down by 80%, excuse me, some cases from 5 minutes to 15 seconds. That changes the way, it's a step change reduction in the friction for collaboration. The document management system also helps us meet critical legal requirements. For example, in export control, OSHA 1910, and in run-of-the-mill records retention. Most projects, when they're done, at the end, there is a handover. And usually that handover contains lots of paper, lots of physical media. It may take months. Well, when you go digital with this stuff, you can eliminate all of that. And you can end up with better metadata and you can reduce the time it takes from months to weeks. And I want to emphasize this last point. The searchability of metadata can impact the operation of that facility over the next 25 or 30 years. So it's a small investment that has a huge payoff. And finally, I want to kind of hit on this one. So if you, in a capital project, if you look at the full document lifecycle from generation of document to issue to construction and startup, better control of this information certainly can accelerate a project by 1 or 2 days. And at least for world scale Dow chemical plants, this is $1 million to $2 million per day. So what if you did it for a week by discovering a wrong document or an incorrect version of a document? That's a significant thing. And just on one project can pay many times over for the full investment of what you did to put this system in place. So if I step way back and say, for my 7 years of being at this activity, if you do this right, and you start off with document management, you will have people come to you, there'll be spin-offs, and the benefits will be much greater than what you anticipated. So what are our next steps? Where do we go from here? So I say it's all about integration. And what do I mean by integration? Well, there's 3 areas. One is bringing together what I call the data-centric world with the document-centric world. Adept and document management, they're discrete documents. But we have a lot of engineering tools that don't have discrete documents. They're all database. Well, you need to tie those 2 systems together because some information resides in both. That's essential. The second place is really looking outside your organization to tie together your systems with vendors and suppliers. And the last one is connecting things internally with your business systems like SAP. So Robert, that's it for me. Back to you now.
Thank you, Greg. I think the Dow story is a great one to share. It exemplifies how a solution can begin solving one very important problem and then scale gradually over time to address other important challenges and opportunities. And the approach you've taken, the methods used, and the insights learned apply whether you're a global Fortune 500 company or a much smaller organization with only 1 or 2 sites to address. And as Dow looks ahead to business system integration as an important next step, I'd like to introduce all of you to our next presenter, John Grobler, who will introduce you to Adept Integrator, the Synergis platform that helps customers automate data flows between enterprise business systems without any code. John?
Thank you, Robert. We've been doing business systems integration for over a decade. Connecting business systems can have a significant impact on your business in terms of efficiency, data quality, and business intelligence, to name a few. Here's the difference. An out-of-the-box integration platform that makes integration with IT systems, ERP systems, financial systems, and nearly any other business application easy, fast, and affordable. It empowers you to orchestrate and automate data flows across any number of systems to accelerate business performance and support your business goals. I have a number of scenarios here which I'd like to walk through with you today, and these are real examples which we've put together with clients. The first one I'd like to go into is a Con Edison example. The idea was for Con Edison to be able to have their engineers be able to access any drawing, equipment, manual, or SOP related to an asset location, such as ArcGIS, and retrieve that data from their Adept document management system. Secondly, they had a spatial linking methodology system which manages all maps, feeders, pictures, drawings, and reports. They needed to get that data into Adept and retrieve that data as well. So essentially, they had unified synchronization between all 3 applications, with Adept being their central document repository. Another example is a little different. This was with Alyeska Pipelines. They had a different scenario. Their scenario was they had a number of systems and they wanted to create a federated search engine where a user can come onto an internal website and search for a particular drawing, SOP, or manual, and have the system query any of their three main applications, whether it be Oracle, Adept, or SharePoint, and retrieve that data back to the user. Once the user has this data represented on the web page, they have the ability then to drill down and view the document or the data in the relevant system. A third example is a more complicated scenario, and this was with Barrick Gold. Their objective was to improve their efficiency in approving engineering projects and managing their portfolio. They needed to reduce their approval cycle from 3 months to less than 3 weeks. The process kicks off with an opportunity. Anybody in their organization can capture an opportunity, and they had SharePoint as a collaborative tool to capture any opportunity. The opportunity is gathered and updated into their cost control system, where it is approved and updated into their executive information tools. And then from there, once approved, they could then apply for the funding or the expenditure. The data would pre-populate back to their SharePoint page with the details of the approval. The user then would submit and capture any other information required, such as engineering, environmental studies, any other plans, and scope. Once all that data was captured in SharePoint, it updated into Adept. Adept then became the central repository for the whole approval process. And based on the delegation of authority and the value of the project, it would then route through different focus groups. Once each focus group has approved or rejected the process, in this instance, once approved, it would then go and update their cost management system with the approval of the program, update their Oracle ERP system, enabling the budget, and then also creating the schedule in their Oracle scheduling tool. They used email as a method to create and approve any requirement or make any comments within the system. So you can imagine the complexity to orchestrate data between many systems such as Barrick, Alyeska, and Con Ed. Adept Integrator simplifies this process through easy-to-use, code-free drag-and-drop visual data mapper. We have powerful process automation tools which allow us to schedule events and triggers as they happen in various systems. A comprehensive monitoring and management system allows the user to monitor the health and the performance of the systems at all times. And then, of course, the most important aspect for me would be the unrivaled connectivity. You need to be able to connect to all these systems. And with over 100 pre-built components and certified adapters, we're able to connect to systems such as SAP, Oracle, IBM, and Salesforce. And I'll go into a little bit more detail a little later on. Security is critical, and end-to-end security and encryption within the organization and outside the firewall is essential. And then, of course, enterprise grade. The volume of data needs to be managed and handled. And within memory data grid architecture, we're able to manage and process very large volumes of data. Success factors in integrating engineering and business systems depends on a powerful platform such as Adept Integrator, and business processes being well defined is essential. The platform must have the ability to integrate across all the applications. And I've spoken about the connectivity. Some of the applications you will recognize over here being JD Edwards, Oracle, Maximo, and SAP. Bidirectional transaction between Adept and the other applications is essential. And as you've seen in the Con Edison scenario and in the Barrick scenario, we're able to transmit and move data bidirectionally between each application based on triggers and events. By allowing a philosophy of input data once at source, as we've shown in the Barrick scenario where the user creates an opportunity and then that data is synchronized across the whole platform and organization, it allows the user to reduce mistakes, prevent duplication, increase their business performance and efficiency, and then of course lower operational costs and improve revenue performance, as Greg has shown as well. Creating a unified singular integration interface or platform across all applications is a huge value to the organization. And with Adept Integrator, it allows us to do this and consolidate data easily across all different platforms, as well as allow business intelligence tools to access the data. When your business process is well defined and well thought through, Adept Integrator can be deployed in a fraction of the time and truly saves you time in integrating your system. Finally, if you are thinking if Adept Integrator would work for you and your organization, let me go through this connectivity chart, and I alluded to it a little earlier. What you're seeing here is you're seeing Adept Integrator with all of its tier 1 connectors. Now, you could have a look at the connectivity chart and recognize the icon of the applications you may have. Within there, you would see SharePoint, SAP, IBM, Salesforce, Adept, Prism, and Oracle. With these connectors being predefined and certified by the industry solution vendors, it takes the complexity of connecting with these applications out and allows us to focus on the business process. By defining the business process well and not having to worry about how we connect to the application, we bring value to the organization. Now, in some instances, you may not have a connector. And how would we connect to those applications in that instance? On the inside of that circle, you will see some gray items, and those are web services, databases, file management systems, communication, EDI, and IoT. IoT standing for the Internet of Things. These are protocols which are available in the industry, which allow us to connect to any other application. And what's great about this is that with these protocols and with our connectors, we can safely say that we can connect to 98% of all applications within your organization. And I hope this answers your question of whether Adept Integrator would work for you in your organization. And that would be all I really have to say, and I'd like to hand back over to Scott.
Thank you, Jean. It's great to see tools like this helping enterprises tie everything together across their business systems and doing it with out-of-the-box connectors as compared to all the customization previously required. Our last presenter before I wrap things up and we begin to take your questions is Scott Lamont, VP of Marketing and Partnerships with Synergis Software, the developers of the Adept suite of products. Scott, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert. And also my thanks to Greg for sharing Dow's experience and results with Adept, and Jean for shedding light on just how straightforward enterprise business system integration can be. So my goal today is simply and briefly to introduce you to Synergis Software, Adept, and to share some suggested next steps for you in your journey to optimize the management of engineering information and streamline your capital projects. Now, before we jump right into that, we just want to get some information from you folks, learn a little bit more about you, our audience. So we're going to launch a poll here, and you should see that come up momentarily. And Martha, are you with us? Can we get that poll launched? There we go. So the first polling question, we've just got two here. What type of information are you interested in managing? Are you looking to manage as-built, existing plants or utility infrastructures, mining facilities or otherwise? Or are you looking to manage capital projects as well? Or perhaps it's just capital projects. Let us know your feedback on that. I see results coming through as we speak. And we'll give it just a few more seconds here. And Martha, let's close out the poll. And it looks like 70% of folks are looking to manage both. So that's kind of the clear winner there. And I'm going to go to our next polling question. And Martha, if you can open that one up as well. We just want to know, how would you describe your current situation with regards to engineering information management? Is this something you already have in place? Perhaps you're getting some additional education, best practices, and so forth. Are you actively evaluating solutions now? Are you just in the early exploration phases of this type of a thing? Let us know your feedback on that. And we'll give it just a few more seconds here. Okay, and it looks like roughly 48% of you have a solution already in place. You're taking advantage of this. Hopefully it's working out well for you. Perhaps you're here exploring to see if there might be a better way or a different way. And then it looks like split down the middle, 26% are actively evaluating, 26% are in the early stages of exploration. So thanks so much for that. We appreciate the feedback. And I will take us through a little bit of an introduction on Synergis software and Adept. So we released our first engineering information management solution back in 1991. So we've got a wealth of experience solving problems and learning from our customers over these past 27 years. And the development of our flagship engineering information management suite, Adept, is all done here in the United States, based out of Pennsylvania. And we implement and support our solution directly and through a growing network of select partners around the world. Today, more than 75,000 users are benefiting from Adept across 25 countries and 6 continents. And I would say the culture at Synergis is really unique, very special. It's why I've been with the company for 27 years and why so many of us have been here for more than a decade or 2 or even 3. Our sense of purpose and our mission and commitment to making a difference for our customers in meaningful ways seems to be recognized and appreciated not only by our customers, but also by industry analysts and organizations. So following their extensive study of this market, Frost & Sullivan honored Synergis as the customer service leader in the global engineering information management market. And this is an award that Frost & Sullivan presents to the company that has maintained consistently high standards for customer service quality that has resulted in trusted and strategic relationships. And Helpdesk International, an independent professional association and certification body for the technical service and support industry, has ranked Synergis as one of the top 5 global help desks for 3 consecutive years. Serving and supporting our customers beyond expectation is actually one of our core values, and it's what drives the development of our software and the way we partner with each of our clients to ensure their success. So I want to briefly introduce you to some of the most common benefits our customers are realizing when they implement Adept. So perhaps the most common benefit all of our customers are leveraging Adept for, and Dal certainly talked about this, Greg talked about it, is fast access to information. Users can find files located anywhere, from anywhere. Adept is a central repository for document access, uniting the whole organization on a common platform, making it fast and easy to find whatever it is you're looking for across departments, sites, servers, and so forth. And we ensure everyone always finds the latest version of a document, eliminating duplicates and overwrites. And of course, if you can find documents, you eliminate rework and you enable reuse for other projects. And by replicating document vaults across locations, we enable collaboration on projects, effective collaboration, with users everywhere enjoying fast, local access to the same collection of files. So protecting IP is something on nearly every organization's top 5 list. Adept provides the security you need with granular control over document access and secure document vaulting. And importantly, we vault your documents without encrypting or scrambling your intelligent file names and folders, or just blobbing your files into our proprietary database. Unlike other solutions, we don't hold your data hostage. Adept makes efficient collaboration possible across departments and sites and with external contractors, vendors, or customers. And Adept automates any of your document-centric workflow processes, like the engineering change process, for example. Email notifications and time-based alerts help keep everyone in the know and bring attention to bottlenecks in the process. And Adept is tightly integrated with mainstream CAD applications like AutoCAD, MicroStation, SolidWorks, Inventor, and others. Complex CAD file relationships like XREFs or parts, assemblies, drawings, and configurations are managed so you can easily understand the impact of a change and keep everything connected. And every license of Adept includes the most powerful visualization software on the market, allowing non-CAD users to view, print, markup, measure, and compare 2D and 3D CAD and engineering formats. And it also supports Office, raster, and electronic formats as well. And Adept helps our customers get projects or products to market faster so they can realize more revenue, improve profitability, and get more projects completed. And last year, Adept helps to reduce the risk of an industry or government compliance issue and streamlines the compliance process itself, whether we're talking about ITAR, OSHA, FDA 21 CFR 11, or so many others. Beyond this, Adept offers flexible reporting and automated or on-demand batch printing and publishing. And perhaps most important, Adept is easy to implement, use, and maintain. So one of the things that really stood out to Frost & Sullivan in their deep dive into this market and stands out against our competition is time to value. We've refined the process of implementing, migrating legacy data, configuring the system, training users, such that typical Adept implementations take about 3 weeks, which may span over a month or 2. Compared to developing, implementing, and maintaining a homegrown system, and compared to other solutions on the market, we're really bending time by what is often months or years. So some of the magic that makes this possible are mindfully developed solutions to quickly and easily import legacy data into the system. During this process, Adept extracts metadata like properties and attributes and file relationships from the files as they are connected to Adept, populating the Adept database with content that you can use. Some of the magic is that we provide excellent tools to clean up legacy data after it's brought in, speeding up that process and not forcing you to get everything perfect before you implement. And some of the magic, as I mentioned, are implementation processes that we've developed through our extensive experience of what works and does not work. So, you've heard from Dow Chemical today, and you've heard a little bit about Con Edison, who's really powers New York City, Alyeska Pipeline, Barrick Gold from Jean. And I'll share briefly just a short list of some of our other clients across different industries. So utilities and energy, Eversource is another Fortune 500 company, many smaller utilities as well, really spans the full gamut. And then just process and pharmaceuticals, you've got, in addition to Dow, Evonik, General Mills, Bayer. In oil and gas, Loop, several pipelines like Buckeye, Energy Transfer, and Alyeska. Mining, we talked about Barrick, but Iron Ore of Canada, Mosaic Potash, the Philly Airport, CSX Rail, Massport. Just to give you some ideas, manufacturing-wise, we've got a really strong base of customers in manufacturing, Leatherman, Nike, Kohler, Keurig, and so forth. And then on the government side, government and government contractors, several groups at NASA, the IRS, Raytheon, some of the national laboratories as well. And we have EPCs and AEC firms utilizing Adept as well, like Interstates and Bar Engineering. And then other companies that don't necessarily fit into these categories, but are leveraging Adept internally, like Amazon, Tiffany, Progressive Insurance, and others. So let's talk about next steps. If something that's been shared today by Robert, Greg, Jean, or myself hit home for you and you'd like to explore further, here are a few options. I'll mention these here, and we're sending you a link now in your GoToWebinar chat so you can opt in to whatever interests you. So one option is to schedule a call with an Adept expert to review your unique requirements and explore the value case for EIM at your organization. Whether you're in the early stages or further down the road, we can help. From that discussion, we can also schedule you for a one-on-one demonstration of the solution addressing your specific needs. Another good option is Frost & Sullivan's white paper on bringing order to the chaos of capital projects. And if you want more of a general deep dive into the Adept product, I suggest registering for the Adept Plunge webinar on June 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And also keep in mind our annual Adept customer community event, Adept Experience, is coming up September 30th in Boulder, Colorado. It's a fantastic event. For many of us here at Synergis, it's our favorite time of the year. And there'll be a lot of customers that you can connect with and learn from, along with sessions delivered by our customers and by Synergis, and post-conference training if you're interested. So everyone's invited, and the conference pass is free for those who are not yet customers and are just getting educated. But by now, you should have received a link in your GoToWebinar chat that will take you to a landing page that will allow you to opt in for more information on any of those. I'll give you just a moment for you to get through to that. And if for some reason you haven't seen it, maybe perhaps at the end of the Q&A, you can double check your Q&A box of the GoToWebinar panel and see if that link is there. All right. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it back over to Robert to take us through our final 3 key takeaways before we open it up for questions.
Thanks, Scott. I'd like to wrap up with these key takeaways from our analysis of the EIM market. 1, seek a partner who understands your challenges and work with a partner you trust. Capital projects are such large endeavors. Work with a partner who knows the challenges involved, who has implemented best practices, and has a track record of providing solutions. 2, future-proof your business. Find a solution that can adapt and grow with your changing needs. Plus, many solutions lock you into proprietary databases. Choose an EIM solution that doesn't hold your data hostage. And 3, get to value fast. Look for a partner who can help integrate with existing solutions and get users up and running and understanding the EIM solution as soon as possible. Training and support are important, and user adoption is key. So next, we'll head on to the Q&A portion. So this concludes the presentation portion of today's webinar, and next will be a live Q&A session. If for some reason you can't stay for the Q&A, on behalf of Greg, Scott, Jean, and myself, thank you for your time. We hope it was valuable in some way, and we look forward to talking with you again soon. So now for the Q&A, please enter your questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar panel. I'll read them aloud for everyone and direct them to the appropriate presenter to answer. Let's give it a moment and see what comes through. Okay, let's see, I have a questions come up. Our first question is, what would you say distinguishes Adept from other enterprise solutions like Intergraph or OpenText? That one seems more like one for Scott.
Sure, well, that's a great question. Distinguishing Adept from some of the larger enterprise systems, I'd say there's several variables. We probably touched on a few of those today. First and foremost, I would say, is time to value. So I touched on this a little bit in my portion, but we really do a great job of consulting with clients up front, learning about your requirements, your people, how the your goals for the solution, and the processes that you have in place. And we put together a implementation plan that's managed by a project manager, and we can really get people up and running much more quickly than our competition. Greg alluded to this in his presentation, with us proving out to their requirements in about 3 days, including importing over 100,000 legacy documents. So that's a piece of it. I think the simplicity of Adept ties in with that. So it's easy to implement. It is easy to use, and it's easy to maintain. You don't need a team of people on staff to manage this system. And I would say nearly all of our customers do it with just one or perhaps part-time, a couple of folks managing the system. So, and then I guess the other piece would be financially, price-wise, Adept is generally significantly more affordable than some of those larger enterprise systems as well. So complexity, ease of use, ease of implementation, ease of maintenance, and price. I hope that helps with that question. Back to you, Robert.
Great, thanks. It looks like we've got a couple more questions come in. We have, do you have experience integrating with Maximo? This seems like one for Jean.
Thanks, Robert. Yes, we do have experience in integrating with Maximo. We've just concluded an integration with Maximo at another client in the chemical industry, which is Lucite, where we integrated Adept and Maximo. So the answer is yes.
Great, great. And next question we have is, how large was your implementation team at Dow? Do you have any metrics on the process itself? That's for Greg.
Yeah, I can tell you that we did all what you see here with a core team of about 5 or 6 people. And compared to more traditional ways of implementation, it's a very small number of people. So to support our solution and to deploy this, it's just a handful of people. Now we do have support. We do have extra people at sites around the world that act as first-line support, but the core implementation team is just really a handful of people. And your second question about, do we have metrics on the process itself? I'm not quite sure I completely understand that. We do track for each project the schedule and the time. We actually have a template for the implementation of projects where we go through gate reviews, etc. Beyond that, I'm not quite sure what you might be asking.
And just a brief interjection here. This is Scott. Just a reminder that you can ask your questions in the questions panel, the questions box there in the GoToWebinar window. And Greg, just could you I think you covered this in your presentation, but that team, what are we talking about in terms of the number of global sites and roughly the number of document management systems that you guys were replacing with Adept? Just a ballpark.
About 20 different systems around the world, but that does not count the many locations that continued to use file shares. So did I answer your question?
Yep, thank you very much. All right.
Okay. Yeah, that's all the questions we have for now. If anyone else wants to ask one, please put it into the questions panel in the GoToWebinar section. Okay, let's see, we just had another one pop in. How does this relate to BIM? And I'm not sure, Scott, if you want to take that one, or?
Sure. So how does it relate to building information management? Well, it really depends on what it is that you're looking to do, what your current systems that you have in place, what you're looking to accomplish. But we do have many of our customers are doing building information modeling, and Adept can be part of that process of helping you manage that information, as well as the other related documents and metadata that you're dealing with. So I think we'd want to get a little bit more detail about what you're looking to accomplish with regards to BIM, but we've got a lot of customers using BIM solutions and utilizing Adept as well as part of that overall system architecture.
Scott, this is John. Can I jump in there?
Yes, please.
Also with regards to BIM, we've integrated BIM to an estimate and bringing that estimate data, building up your bottom-up estimate and taking that into your costs management system to build your portfolio. So essentially, with your CAD and your build, managing that process in Adept and Adept keeping track of it, we then take the estimate from there and extrapolate the estimate into your cost management system to manage your costs. So that's another aspect of it, and that's part of the integration which we've done in the past. So that's just another flavor. So supporting what you're saying, Scott, depends on your specific requirement for BIM. Okay, thank you.
Hey, great. Thanks, Sean and Scott. We've had a couple more questions come in. Do you have any workflows for advanced work packaging, AWP, on the engineering and construction side?
So workflow in Adept is really open and really configurable. So it doesn't require any customization, but we can really model workflows around whatever needs that you folks have. So I think what we could do, Tim, is take it offline and have a conversation about exactly what you're doing, what you're looking to accomplish, and we could even walk you through how Adept could handle the processes. Explore together how and if Adept can handle the processes that you folks have and what you're looking to accomplish. We'd be happy to set that up and do something one-on-one with you on that.
Great, great. And we've had another question come in. Can you speak a little more to asset management?
So asset management, so it really depends on what you're talking about in terms of asset management. So a lot of what, a lot of how Adept is used is in asset intensive industries, and we're managing all the components and all the aspects of your critical assets, your revenue generating assets. If there's specific questions about to what degree and how you'd like to manage that, again, we'd love to chat with you guys offline directly, and we can set something up to go deeper on that, and then also kind of walk you through the solution in terms of what your specific requirements are and try to address that with you.
Great, great. It looks like we're out of questions and we've been over time a little bit. I'd like to thank everyone on behalf of Greg, Jean, Scott, myself, and Martha. Thank you very much for attending our webinar.
Thanks, everyone.